Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, Daniela. Lovely to see you again. So I think we'll get underway. There may be some people who join us. There's some people I think who are having a few technical issues, but we'll get underway and they can join us as we go along. So yeah, just want to thank everybody for joining us this evening for the first of the Aston Enterprise how-to series. And obviously this is always a firm favourite, so it's how to start a food business. We are possibly being joined by the Green Sisters, but obviously, as is the way with kind of startups and entrepreneurs, sometimes things happen unexpectedly. So if they join us, it's an added bonus. If not, it means we've got more time to speak to Cleo and Daniela, who've both got really fascinating stories to share with us tonight. So for those of you who don't know Aston Enterprise, we put on a whole range of different activities, programs, events, hackathons, all sorts of things like that, all designed to get you to think about kind of entrepreneurship potentially as a career choice, or to get you thinking about developing kind of enterprising skills that will help you whatever you do in future life, whether it is starting up something yourself as the guys who've joined us today have done, or it may be that you go and work for a big corporate or you know, a charity, whatever it is, you're able to use some of these enterprising skills. So that's what we do, and we'll now get underway and start talking to our panelists. So we're delighted to be joined by Cleo Morris, who set up Dine, which is a British and Caribbean kind of fusion catering company based here in Birmingham. I've got some amazing clients, so the likes of Google and Amazon, Prince's Trust, but I won't give away too much because Cleo will obviously be able to fill you in a lot better than I can. And then we're really delighted to be joined by Daniela, who and her co-founder founded Sibo. Am I saying that right, Daniela? Sibo.
Sibo.
Brilliant. So they both hail from Costa Rica, and the business is really innovative, as obviously Daniela is going to explain to you as we go on tonight. But essentially, it's to do, they're involved with farming insects on a large scale back in Costa Rica, and the business uses kind of innovative techniques to make foodstuffs, but also to make sort of things like packaging that the food comes in from all of the insects. So really fascinating stuff, as we will be learning throughout this afternoon's chat. So the way it'll work is I will be posing some questions to Cleo and Daniela. But as ever, you know, we really want to hear what you guys as students are thinking. So any comments, any questions that sort of I don't cover off. And there's a couple of ways that you can do that. You can write your questions in the chat. And I'm sure you're all familiar with Blackboard because you've been using it for your studies. So you can write something in the chat, and Howard, my colleague from Aston Enterprise, and myself will be sort of monitoring that so we can ask questions. Or if we get to the end, you can raise your hand, obviously using the button on the bottom there, and then you can unmute yourself and ask the question of Daniela and or Cleo. So we'll get started by, if I ask each of you in turn, and I'll just start with you, Cleo. If you could, you know, start by telling us a little bit about yourself, your sort of your own background, and then moving on to Dine, and you know, tell us a little bit more about that. So over to you, Cleo.
Yeah, sure. Hey everyone, my name's Cleo. I am the founder of Dine. So my background, I studied at university and completed a business and marketing degree. Shortly after that, I then actually applied for the BC program, which Carolyn heads up, with my marketing business. And then a few years later into that, I actually launched Dine, which is a Caribbean fusion catering company that provides both corporate and private catering services to a variety of different clients, like Carolyn mentioned. We work with some big names such as Google, the British Trust, Amazon. We also do kind of family functions and parties as well.
Brilliant, thank you. And Daniela, if you can give us a similar kind of overview.
Sure. Well, hello everyone, and thank you for this invite. I'm really excited to be sharing with you this evening, well, afternoon. Basically, well, yeah, my name is Daniela Arias. I'm the co-founder of Sibo. At Sibo, basically what we do is we want to lead the food industry to a sustainable future, and we do that by creating biomaterials from insects, right? My background is in nutrition. I studied nutrition, human nutrition in college. And yeah, I'm originally from Costa Rica, just moved to Birmingham 2 months ago to start a division of specifically the company that I'm going to talk about later. And yes, basically with Sibo, we have about, well, my entrepreneur journey, it has taken about 2 years, and Sibo was born officially in January this year. I'll come back to that later then.
Fantastic, thank you. And Daniela, am I right in thinking you're at the moment in AlphaWorks?
Yes, I'm actually, yeah, I'm currently in AlphaWorks in Alpha Tower here in Birmingham.
Yeah, brilliant. So, thank you for that. That's great, just setting the scene a little bit. So if I can take you both back to when you started out, can you tell us, and again, I'll just turn to you, Cleo, to start with. Can you tell us how you came up with the concept for Dine, and how you sort of at what point you knew that you had a concept that was worth pursuing? I know as well, because obviously know about the background, you kind of pivoted as well, so maybe you could allude to that.
Yeah, sure. So Dine initially started off as a meal prep delivery service. So we offered healthy Caribbean meals delivered to customers anywhere in the country. And we started that in 2017. And kind of my thinking was I've worked in the food space, having worked as a chef in my youth. And I guess the combination of my marketing degree worked hand in hand. And I just noticed that in terms of ready prepared meals, there wasn't anything that was on the market that was Caribbean or kind of inspired by. And then kind of the idea was formed. And with people wanting more convenience, we went down the kind of online delivery side of things as opposed to storefront. And then the business kind of pivoted, changed at the end of December, so last year, December 2019, where we were getting a lot of inquiries for corporate catering services, and we did absolutely nothing for these pieces of work. And so I kind of made the decision that I'll step away from the meal prep, because there seems to be a lot more demand for the catering side for us. And that's kind of how I made the switch, really. It was kind of weighing up the two. We did absolutely no work to generate revenue for the catering, but we managed to generate a decent amount of revenue from that. And with the meal prep, we'd spent a lot of time and energy into generating revenue. And we all, even though we still made money, it just seemed kind of like a no-brainer. If it costs us nothing to make money, then it kind of so I kind of switched the proposition to go into corporate catering as opposed to meal prep delivery.
So you're 100% focused now on the corporate catering, are you?
Yeah, well, depending on how COVID works out, because if we go into another lockdown, we might have to reignite the meal prep service again. So luckily for us, it's kind of, we know how it functions. Like it's a case of switching the website back on, really. So yeah, we're focused wholeheartedly on the catering side, but obviously in the current climate, we can't do much. So we might have to reignite the meal prep like a phoenix from the ashes or something.
At least you've got the option of doing the two, depending on
exactly.
how it goes in the next few months. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. And so Daniela, how about you? How did you get started with farming the insects? And I'm dying to know.
Yeah, it's a funny story. No, it's just basically, well, just for everyone to know, in Costa Rica we don't eat insects at all. I mean, we are very much against insects, I think, and so it was really a matter of I don't know, just finding the right solution for the problems of the world. And from my side, and coming from a very sustainable country, sustainability is a part of me. And so when I was finishing college, I took a course in nutrition and insects, and just like the regular thing that you do because you have it. And I took it, and that is when I found out about insects. And then at the same time, I was finding out about the SDGs and finding out about all of this sustainability issues and etc. So basically, from that is when I found out about it, and I was talking with my co-founder about how you can actually eat the insects and how nutritive they are and how sustainable they are, etc. And then it took us, I mean, I didn't learn how to farm the insects, but then like about a year later, I bought the first ones, and of course they died because I didn't know how to do it. And it took about, let's say, another year, trial and error, finding out the best way to farm the insects in a sustainable way. And then in 2018, we started it with the company back in Costa Rica, which is called Costa Rica Insect Company, and it's dedicated just for farming. And that is why we started it. But from our side, it's basically a matter of common sense and going back to the roots of humanity, eating insects, and yeah, that's how it all began. But it wasn't easy at all. Yeah, but that's basically how we began, with just focusing on sustainability and what we can do for the planet.
Okay, and so it's crickets, isn't it, that the insects that you farm?
Yes, we're working with crickets basically because it's the people call it like the introduction insect. I mean, it would be more, there's a higher possibility of you eating a cricket than I don't know, a cockroach or something else. So that's basically why, and also because of their functional properties and applications that we can actually do in food. So that's why we chose the crickets.
Okay, and we mentioned at the start that you some of it is used to make flour.
Yes, if you want, I can explain a little bit about the division of the company. What we do at Sibo, like I told you, is that we want to just create solutions for the food industry across the food supply chain. So we started it with CRIC, Costa Rican Insect Company, and this is the agri-tech division of the company, in which we do just insect farming, and we also have social impact because we partner with women in rural areas of the country, and we teach them how to grow these insects, and then they become our suppliers. So basically, we have this fair trade supply chain with women back in the country, and in Costa Rica, what we do is basically create insect flour. This insect flour is a food ingredient, a raw material that we can actually incorporate into some other foods. What I'm doing here in Birmingham is actually that, the food tech division of the company, which is the side that focuses on food, snacks, and B2C products direct to the consumer. So basically, I brought them here. So we have these are samples, but this sort of products. So these are cricket crackers, and then this is how they look. So it's just a regular cracker, that this is high in protein, low in fats, in sugars, etc. Really healthy, really sustainable. And we also have another presentation, which is the brownie bee bites, which are basically like small little bites of brownie. It's a little bit broken, but small little bites of brownie. Still, again, high in protein, really sustainable, with fiber, etc., etc. That is what we're establishing here. And of course, our company has another really huge side of research and development, because of course there's a lot of other things that you can do. Like you said, the packaging. We can actually take out the fiber of the insects and make it into a biopolymer that can be a substitute for plastic. So that's also another new development that we're doing and that we're working on. So yeah, we have like 3 focuses: the agri-tech, the first side, and basically the basis of everything, then the food tech, which is the one that we are taking back to taken to the consumer directly, and then the research and development, which is just creating new things and new innovations.
Oh, brilliant. Now that's good to know, kind of get a proper feel for the business there. So, Cleo, have you ever eaten any insects?
I have actually. Yeah,
Have you?
yeah. Like growing up, my dad, being a chef, like he used to bring back all sorts of. I've tried insects, mealworms, crickets. What else? I've tried all sorts of weird and wonderful things, which is quite fun and interesting, and they actually taste quite good. Actually, like I've had them just like roasted and spiced, and they're actually
Yeah.
quite nice. I think it's getting over the mental barrier of I'm eating an insect. Once you pass
Yeah,
that point, it actually tastes quite good. Like,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you're going to have them on the menu?
might do. I might make them a little seasoning.
Yeah. So, um, so obviously you found out that you had a concept that worked. How did you sort of go about, Cleo? Perhaps you to start with, differentiating yourself from your competitors.
Oh, well, for me, the way I went about it was I kind of wanted to understand what I want to stand for within my business. So, kind of what do I want my business to look like if I was to purchase it? And for me, that was I want it to be authentic, and I want it to be healthy, and I want it to be convenient. Um, and I looked at my competitors to see what they were doing and whether what I did was in any way similar. And to be honest, I didn't find that there was that much similarity. Like if they did, for example, meal prep or catering, if it was meal prep, it was healthy, but there was no real kind of specialism. So for us, it was Caribbean food. And with the catering side, if it wasn't just general catering, they didn't really specialize in the Caribbean fusion element. So for me, it was what do I want the business to look like if I were to purchase it, and how does that translate to the rest of the kind of current market? Like how do we stand out? And then once I had a kind of a look through and saw what other people offered, I kind of realized that our unique like position in terms of healthy Caribbean, which is kind of an oxymoron. Caribbean food generally isn't healthy. It's normally full of a lot of salt and a lot of oil.
I know, but I want to taste your food. I want to feel the Caribbean side. It's so good.
It kind of works out really because the idea that Caribbean food is like healthy, it's a real oxymoron in its own right. So it just made sense then. We kind of went, yeah, if anyone's able to do this, so that's kind of how I looked at it.
Yeah, that's the only trouble, isn't it, by doing it on these sort of Zoom things. Normally we could have food to
Yeah,
share and things. And Daniela, then same question to you. I mean, do you have any direct competitors? Obviously you do on the sort of cricket farming side of things, but presumably on the other side, not so much.
Basically, yes. There are a lot. Well, there are not a lot, but there are some other companies doing insect farming in the world. Even here in the UK as well. But basically, we don't see them as competitors. We see them as. I mean, we have to see each other as partners, and for this business to grow, it's just a matter of collaboration. So we try to have everyone just like a partnership, and if they grow, we can grow, etc., etc. But yeah, there are a lot of people doing insect farming here in Europe, across the world, in Asia, in Latin America as well. And in terms of the food snacks as well, there are some specific brands. For instance, here in the UK, we have Eat Grub. They're doing whole insects and protein bars. They're actually in Sainsbury's, so you can find them there. And well, now that we are coming into this market as well with some of our snacks, like the ones that I showed you, but they're really most of them are really focused on protein bars or just like protein bars. That's the main focus that I've seen so far. We have been trying to get past that and actually create foods that are more normal, if you can say. So basically, we are developing also pasta, bread, things that you can actually eat on a daily basis. So that's what our focus is currently within here in the food tech division. And yeah, with everything else, the developments, this plastic that you can actually make of the insects. Actually, I don't think anyone else is doing it. We have been seeing some other companies working with other insects in terms of pharmacological uses or just basically for medicines, but not necessarily for plastic.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And back in sort of when you were first starting out, how did you go about getting your first customers? I mean, I think, Cleo, you said that sort of customers were coming to you, but presumably that's because you had the website up and running for My Dine. But what sort of marketing has worked for you?
Yeah, so I guess if in terms of like initial customers, if I kind of go a bit further back then to our meal prep service when we had like no presence or awareness, for me, we did a lot of social media marketing. We looked at some paid ads in terms of Google ads, and we also just a bit of word of mouth, just letting people know. Friends and family would do a lot. You know, if you tell them you've got an idea, they're more than happy to share and share alike. And we found that those were the best methods, really. We did a bit of influencer marketing on social media, where we sent out a bit of product to people, which was actually a great way for us to test the product. So I don't really do influencer marketing because I just think it's a bit of a con. But what I did do is the people that I did know, thankfully, they just happened to have huge Instagram followings and they lived quite far apart. So for me to test how our product would travel in the post, I'd say to a friend like Scott, I'd say, here's some meals. He'd be like, I'll take a photo for you. Perfect. And really that was for me to see how our product travelled in the post when we did our meal prep delivery. But for them, it was free food and we'd post about it. So it kind of worked quite organically in that sense. And then with the paid Google ads, that was mainly for people just searching on the internet looking for meal prep. Us being new, it was, you know, how do we get seen as quickly as possible, really?
Brilliant, thank you. And how about you then, Daniela? What kind of marketing has worked for you?
In our side, we basically, well, like I told you, we began with Costa Rican insect company 2 years ago, and people told us that we were crazy doing insect farming in a country that doesn't have any culture like that. And so basically what we did was didn't focus on Costa Rica. We focused on other countries. And for instance, we started working with Mexico, with the US, focusing with Europe as well. And so that's what we did, and it worked. Actually, we created the need and the market from outside, and then it came back to to Costa Rica, and it actually expanded the frontiers, and that is why basically I'm able to be here today.
Brilliant, thank you. And we've been joined by Geeta.
Hi everyone, terribly
Hi.
sorry I'm late. Slightly dolled up because it's my brother's wedding, so hopefully that gives me a little bit of grace.
And there was I thinking that you just dressed up for us.
Oh yeah, that too.
Oh, but thank you for joining us. I know that you've got your family wedding on, so that's great. And obviously just stay as long as you can. We've just been talking, maybe actually, Geeta, you could just give a quick intro about yourself and about how Green Sisters came about and what exactly it is.
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name's Geeta. I'm one of the founders of Green Sisters. My sister Rena was a part of the BC programme and also graduated from University of Aston, studying economics and business internationally. Myself, I've come from corporate world, and really as a family we were challenged on a personal level with food. So I'm a celiac and a vegetarian, so I have a combination of dietary needs. And in my sort of corporate life, when I was up and down the country, I really struggled to find food that was suitable for myself. And then also occasions like today, for example, where my brother's getting married and lots of people get together, there'd be such a beautiful spread of food. And sadly, a lot of it is very difficult to access if you're somebody with any kind of allergy or intolerance. So that confidence around food and also that sharing element was really something that was lost and made most of us feel excluded. Interestingly, a lot of people don't talk about how it impacts the family, but Rena, my sister, she used to feel guilty being sat with me if I'm out and about, or even at weddings along with the rest of the family. They're all eating, I'm not, and then a lot of the time they just not want to eat because it felt really a shame. So I think that's quite common in terms of people who have a combination of dietary needs. for people who at the moment struggle still to find food that's suited to their diet. So we have made it our business to help people to be able to share. And we're more than food, it's about that inclusion and that feeling of being absolutely a part of the occasion. And you've got the diversity and the inclusion element around food, because most of the best gatherings and conversations happen usually around a table, a buffet of food, or you go out with your friends and you're all going to want to share something. So we wanted to make sure those experiences were just as inviting for those of us who have sort of any diet. And so yeah, we manufacture a range of allergen free, free from all the 14 allergens. So whether it's a combination of nuts and you're vegan or gone plant-based, whether it's that you are somebody who's allergic to sulfites, lupin, even the most, the 14 regulated allergens that are, in this country now much more prevalent, we actually exclude all of those from our core range of products so that people can share and enjoy the same food with confidence. So yeah, we operate in a niche. And Rena and I have spent probably the first few years of the business really establishing the flavours. So we have lovely, delicious chocolate samosas, which go down an absolute treat. They've won great taste awards. We have free from products that are also healthy for you. So we bake our products. We're going down that health and well-being aspect, because food that's allergen free should also be healthy and tasty. And so yeah, there's various sort of elements to the business that we personally feel passionate about bringing to this market.
Yeah, thank you, Geeta. Actually, we have a question from you in the chat. I think you've slightly answered it there, because Nadia asks whether you found it hard to cater for a lot of dietary needs and still have food that tastes good and consistent.
That's a great question. Thank you, Nadia. Well, actually, yeah, it had initially been a massive challenge. We've got a little bit of an anecdote, but our very first show, we went up to Glasgow, and the reason we did that is because we thought, if ever we do this and it doesn't go well, no one will ever know who we are. So we could be, try out all these new flavours. And the product that's actually our main product now was a nightmare that day. It fell apart in the morning of the show. We were due to start at the event at 8 o'clock in the morning, so we had time to kind of video. We took along a videographer who was a friend of ours that sort of was capturing our early moments in business. And it just didn't go well, but it was the product that everybody wanted. So it's an absolute challenge. We took 18 months. We took it very seriously, that actually this is a product that the market wants, but we weren't personally proud of it at that point in time. So we wanted to make sure that everything we delivered had that quality bar. So yeah, it sometimes is a labour of love, certainly within food. There is an element of resilience you need to have, and determination, and I think a sheer passion for what you're doing is what pulls you through even those hard times when sometimes things don't always come as easy as you expect them to.
Brilliant, thank you. Rohan, I think you might have a question. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask?
Hello.
Hello, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity. My name is Rohan and I'm based out of Birmingham. I wanted to ask a question from Geeta. Hi, Geeta. I just wanted to check with you. I saw your business, I saw your website, and really congratulations. You are doing a great job. And definitely you're an inspiration for all the entrepreneurs here and wannabe entrepreneurs. I just wanted to check with you, like, how are you keeping your cost of production within a limit? Because as far as UK is concerned, so here the labor is very, very costly here, and hiring cooks and maintaining that kind of production is really a big challenge. So how are you managing that? And are you able to make any profits as of now, or you are still like kind of just managing it within like you haven't met your break even still? So I just wanted to check those things with you, if you're if you can share those details with me. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Rohan, for your question. Yeah, you raise again two very important points, and I don't think at the very beginning, Rena and I, if we're completely honest, really had a handle enough of what the costs were. And my biggest bit of advice is make sure you do that very early, because you'll surprise yourself when you actually come to do it where your expenses are. And you've hit the nail on the head with one of the biggest expenses, and one of the reasons why in our marketplace we've continued to have such a high price point for the actual product, because labour costs are high. So in the UK it just we have a higher quality of living, and it's really important that we support everybody else's living wage, but equally when you're a small fledgling business, that will be a challenge. I think the way that we managed it was by making sure we did everything in-house, and we literally pulled on all of our friends and lots of volunteers basically to help us to really establish ourselves, establish what we were doing before we felt confident enough to feel that there was that market that we could maybe start to recruit other individuals. How do we tend to do it? Well, yes, in terms of profit making, as a small business, everything that we make we reinvest. So I can't see that we are really profit making at the moment. And I think if you're going into food, be very, very aware that the initial costs are very, very high, and the return will be later down the line. And that's something we were mindful of from probably not the beginning, I'll be honest, but a certain almost towards the beginning of our journey, we started to soon realise that it's very intensive on your own pocket. So you do need to have some reserves, and what we've done is we've really focused in on making sure that the range is right, making sure that as we're growing that we manufacture bigger batches of the same product, because the way that you can help to streamline your cost is through what you call lean principles. And those lean principles are ways of actually batch cooking and reducing the cost of your labour by doing things in a strategic way. There's a really great film, I can't remember what the actual name of it is, but it showed how McDonald's actually managed their environment in their production space before they actually even started to trade. And what they did was they really looked at things like Kaizen principles. And what I mean by that is, what's the quickest way to to get through the production process that's going to take a minimal amount of time so that I can maximize my cost. That you are going to have a higher cost in labour, but if you can make that labour cost as effective as possible, then what you're bearing, your production output can be higher. So I think that's probably the biggest way that you can help yourself. There's no easy answer for labour and costs. It's working really hard yourself at the beginning, really being tight as a business, and then later maybe you can afford to invest in machinery. Generally, automation is the way forward for most businesses who have a huge, a larger demand for their products and want to kind of be more effective in the way that their labour costs are actually attributed maybe to strategy at the point once they've got machines to help them. But there's no getting away from labour. Sorry, Rohan, it might not be the answer you wanted, but it's certainly the honest one.
No, thank you. That was really quite insightful. Thanks a lot for sharing. It's really helpful. Just one more question. Are you planning on going on a franchise model? Going forward? Do you have any plans to go via the franchise mode, or you want to open your own branches within UK or within Europe? What are your expansion plans? And secondly, have you raised any money? Are you interested in raising any capital? So are you going that way? So these two questions, just out of curiosity, I'm asking, if you don't mind answering.
I've learned never to say no to anything actually in this journey, and the reason being is because you just don't know what the option is until you actually spend time looking at what the actual real option is. So I'd say we're very open to any, ways of expansion. But at this moment in time, prior to COVID, we had actually secured a unit somewhere that we can manufacture our larger volume. I do apologise, and that's something we wish to continue, because we believe that our market share in space can massively increase, along with us being able to produce a larger mass. So we plan to be, a business that's entertaining retail, as well as, at the moment, obviously we do have an e-commerce platform, and that's really been what saved us during this really interesting pandemic, which don't think any business would really probably survive if they didn't pivot and start to look at ways to kind of manage their digital streams. So we've got a couple of areas that we're focused in on, but franchising, again, it's not something, I guess, you'll learn very early if you're looking at wanting to start a food business, to actually start to focus. And I think if we entertained everything, would be doing a very bad job. We've literally focused in on samosas as our first product, because that was really important to us to get that right. I think it's really key that in all elements of a food business, you remember to retain your focus. We've only just started to go out into the meal area of the business, because people during the pandemic were in a scenario where they needed, rather than just snacks, actual meals. So yeah, our expansion is more going to be around product range and also those two channels, but we certainly would consider other things in the future, but it needs to be a well thought out decision. And as far as investment goes, I'm sure in the future we will look to investors as we're expanding, but we're just sort of starting to really establish ourselves first, before we take a leap into sharing our business with anybody else. At the moment, it's just wholly Green Sisters. Rena and I own that ourselves.
Brilliant, thank you, Geeta. There's a couple of questions in the chat. Cleo, maybe you could answer this. Kemfuni and Amita have both asked about certificates, licenses required for food businesses. Maybe you could just sort of fill us in on that.
Yeah, sure. So with any food business, you need to be food hygiene inspected and rated, and that generally is going where you intend to set the business up, whether it be from home or from a place or unit of some sort. Wherever that local council is, you need to contact them and let them know that I'm registering a food business. And it's quite a simple process. They send out an application form, and then you fill it in, and they arrange a date or time with you to come and inspect the property. And they're basically looking for the obvious stuff like cleanliness, hygiene, processes and procedures, to ensure that you can produce food in a safe manner going forward. And that's really all that's required. For us with the meal prep, so if you're dealing with food that's high risk, i.e. it has to travel for X amount of time, or it's going to be in transit, we had to do sample testing with that, and that was to make sure our food was safe to consume at the point of delivery, because delivery was the following day. With our catering side of stuff, they just come out once a year to look at the premises, check everything's okay, making sure we've got all the correct procedures in place, because the thing about food, you need traceability. So what people will find is that if you're not able to trace where the food's come from and how it's been cooked and processed, they'll have a problem with that, because if someone gets sick, there's no way to trace what's occurred. So generally speaking, it's quite a straightforward process. It's just a case of letting the local council know I'm setting up a food business, filling in the application form, and then they will come out on a day that you've agreed and inspect the property.
Brilliant. And Cleo, just you started off from home, bit like Rena and Geeta, and you're looking at premises as well, are you? Yeah,
so we're looking at a few at the moment. Actually, one down the road from the BC office. Ironically, yeah, we've been looking at a few, but the pandemic's obviously slowing things down, which isn't great. But we're looking at a few different spaces, mainly because the catering side, obviously we do more volume when we are able to do more volume again, and kind of working from home, trying to do like 200 covers of food. it's not easy. Most we've done in our home kitchen is 150 covers across the course of 5 days each day. But it's a logistical nightmare because it's fun, but it's a logistical nightmare. So we need a space now where we can go out and produce the food and just make my life a lot easier. So yeah, like I say, with that, when we get our unit, depending on if we're based in Sandwell, but the unit might be based in Birmingham, so we have to register the Birmingham City Council to tell them they need to come out and view the property, even though
where the food is manufactured,
That's correct.
cooked or whatever. Yeah. And Daniela, where is your food manufactured at the moment?
At the moment, it's in Walsall, and basically, as Cleo said, basically the same. We just make sure that the manufacturer has everything in place, and of course, as well, we had to do the registration with the city council, and that's it.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got a couple of questions in the chat. There's one from Annie, and maybe you can go round. And Annie's asked how you raised the funds to start the business. So obviously, Geeta's mentioned that they haven't had investment. It's all been self-funded. Is that the same with you, Cleo?
Yeah, so with me, I kind of took the funds that I made with my marketing business and put it into my Dine. So it's exactly the same, really. Just use funds that I accrued with my previous business. And generally speaking, if you need to scrimp and save and stuff like that, I always find that family are happy to invest as long as you've kind of got a sound plan in place if you don't have the accessibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how about you, Daniela? Have you had any investment in the business, or has it all been self-funded?
At the beginning, it was self-funded as well with the funds of each of the co-founders, and it took and then this January we got the first investment, private investment, and we're actually in the process of closing our our seed investment round, and we're about to just do this process.
Yeah. Okay. And what is the what are you going to be using the seed funding for? Just to expand all areas?
No, necessarily. Basically, the first is as a working capital. That's basically the main spend, and then we're going to use it as well to keep developing these new innovations and use it for marketing in the Bite and products that we're doing here in the UK.
Yeah. And who are you selling? You mentioned obviously the competitors selling into a supermarket. Is that a route that you're looking to go down?
Not necessarily at the moment, no, because basically the price is still a little bit too high for the supermarket and we would lose all the margin. But what we're doing is trying to build up an e-commerce way and strategy at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And Geeta, there's Rohan again has asked a question about have you been approached by any food chains or retail outlets with your products?
We actually were approached on our very first show. Believe it or not, we've been a bit resistant to begin with. I think some of the decisions that you make in a food business are a little bit different to what you expect. Sometimes it comes too quickly, and sometimes it's when you're sitting there and you have that decision to make yourself, it can be something that could be quite a risky decision to make. So I think what we tended to do is make sure that we're absolutely ready before we go down that path. I think it's really important for us to make sure that we're not just a brand that's there for a short period of time. And I think some of the early advice that we were given was that there's a lot of brands that sort of go into retail very quickly and don't last very long. And we were really mindful of not being one of those, because we're there for a purpose. We know that there's a real challenge out there with the kind of people who are looking for food like ours. And so we want to exist for the long term and the long haul. So I think these impact your decisions. So yes, in short, we have had conversations with retailers, and yes, this is something that we're more prepared for now. And once, as Cleo rightfully said, it's a tricky time right now. Everybody who's looking for premises. It's like it's timelines are being very much shifted. So when the time is right, it will happen. I'm absolutely sure of that. But yeah, it's not something we've rushed to at all.
Yeah, because is it true? I think Daniela alluded to it there, that the supermarkets really push your prices down. They want, understandably,
Yes.
obviously from their perspective, but yeah, it's whether it's right for you at the time, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's great advice to really take heed of, is know when it's right for you, and really don't compromise if you don't feel it is right, because some of the mistakes that brands that sort of really easily get into a retailer is it's about sort of having that follow through strategy as well. Once you're in there, what are you going to do to make that product actually sell? It's not just about landing on a shelf, it's about actually how you're going to get the product shifted, what's your rates of sale going to be, and these things you need to think about ahead of that actual process of being there. And I think it's really important to sort of bear in mind who's the right retailer for you, what pairs with your brand correctly, where do your customers go to shop, and really kind of consider those types of things when you're looking at a food business.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So you obviously all started a little while ago. Can you tell us a bit about the sort of team or the support network that you've got around you in the business? Maybe Cleo, you'd like to go first.
Yeah, sure. So for me, like my, I guess, team effectively is my family, thankfully. So my dad, like I mentioned before, he's a chef, and I work alongside him. My uncle also is a chef, and he works on quite a lot of our projects as well. And Chef John, again, the name says John. He's also a chef, and these guys have been in the food and catering space longer than I've been alive. So a lot of the time, it's me ringing them and saying, "This is what we're trying to do," and it's good because they understand and they buy into what I'm trying to achieve. It's helpful. You can have open discussions where I can go, "What do you think of this?" And it's more of a kind of collaborative effort, even though it's my business, because they kind of buy into the vision, which is quite nice. And then outside of the team of people that I work with, it would be family and friends. So it'd be kind of my immediate family who understand the business, and then I have a few friends that also run their own business, like Stuart Harrison, for example, who runs Burning Need. We talk all the time about business and just life in general. I find that having that person outside, or those people outside of your actual immediate family and friends, is a good way to kind of keep yourself in check, because those people kind of help and bounce ideas off of you, and you find that you get a lot more in terms of support and just ideas in general.
Yeah, okay, brilliant, thank you. And Daniela, you have a co-founder?
Yes, actually my co-founder is my boyfriend, is my partner, and it has been really interesting to develop just a business with him. I think that at the end we balance out very well. He's actually a marketing expert, and so it's basically like, okay, here's the business, the science behind all of it. So that's how we have been managing everything. But yeah, definitely support of family, friends, and now we have a team of 15 people working here in the UK and in Costa Rica, in other parts of the world. So that's also something. I mean, you have to build this support network as well to bring all your ideas to life. So it's really a matter of keeping those people that really matter to you.
Sure, yeah. And obviously, Geeta, the name of the business.
That's it.
Says it all.
So yeah, I obviously have my co-founder sister, and it very much is a family business. So similar to Cleo, and it's more about the people that are in your direct circle, but it's equally important if you're running in a family business to have that the network. So Cleo quite rightly said, it's great to have people outside of that that maybe might operate in a different space to you, that could offer a different sort of element of knowledge, experience and skill, but also it's good to have fellow entrepreneurs that you talk to, because it can get to be a bit of a lonely journey unless you understand how other people are managing theirs. And it's really important to pick each other up, and when you're having a high, somebody else might be having a low, and vice versa. So the network's really, really key, and I think to find a network, people might be thinking, how do we do that? there are lots of different sort of, Birmingham's one of the probably best places to socially network. So there's lots of accelerators, and obviously Be Seen holds really great events. So I would absolutely urge people to go along when it goes back to normal, if ever there is a normal. I don't even know. I mean, I'm saying all of this, but you know, if not the ones that are face to face, you know, like you have today, virtual events, you know, don't forget there's things like LinkedIn. Like, look at the people who attend these and then start to actually network with them, because you know, that they could be somebody who becomes somebody that you know, use as a confidant, and you support each other and, you know, build each other and your own businesses together.
Sure, thank you. And actually, you've all at some point been supported by incubators, accelerators. Maybe you could just tell us a little bit about that. Actually, Daniela, do you want to? You've had a couple, haven't you? Globally,
Yes.
and then also in Birmingham.
Yes, I've worked with some incubators and accelerators in Costa Rica, in Switzerland, and now here in the UK, well, and in the Netherlands as well. And basically at the end, it's a matter, because what we have been doing is just, I mean, they will work with you as long as you work with them, and you keep just track of everything, and making sure that you're taking advantage of all the resources that are available, because that is something that we sometimes do a mistake, that we don't take advantage of everything. If they have a network of mentors, contact them all and make sure that you're actually just talking with them and getting the best advice that you can. And again, just having a clear vision of what you want to get out of this incubator program, accelerator program, that will help you to actually achieve those goals. But yeah, it's basically a matter of understanding what you want out of it, and then and you will just keep the people in the incubator just informed, and they will work with you as well. And I think at the end of the day, it's a matter, and still with the same network that you will have and you will build around your business. It's a matter of having people that share your purpose, your vision, things that you want to do in your life and with your business, to actually help you grow everything that you're doing. Not just take any incubator program just because. Try to find the one that is right for you and your business as well.
Yeah, that's good advice, because there's different ones out there. And you're with the Birmingham Enterprise community.
Yes, we are currently working with Birmingham Enterprise community, and it has been really great. And what we're applying, what I just told you, we know that what we want out of this program. Well, basically, we're able, thanks to their support as well, to travel here in the middle of a pandemic. Just having office space and these connections to the IT, to the manufacturers, to this network in Birmingham as well. So it's just a matter of a clear vision of what you want, and just making it clear for them as well.
Sure. And you're also linked to, you're doing some work with some of the universities in Birmingham as well.
Yes,
yeah.
Well, they have been really helpful working with, well, Aston University, the University of Birmingham, and we have been in discussions as well with UCB.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's worth sort of seeing what different universities have got to offer. Yeah. And Cleo and Geeta, I think you're both at one stage have gone through the NatWest Accelerator.
Yeah, so for me, I started on the Be Seen program, and then last year, the year before, the years are merging into one for me now. But I was on the NatWest Accelerator for 6 months, which I found quite useful and beneficial. And like what Daniela said, really, it's utilising the space and the platform that you've got. So just being able to go into office space and speak and talk to other people that are in a similar position to you or trying to achieve similar goals, you'll find you get a lot of information and kind of support in terms of business growth, development, and just general mental well-being. You know, Geeta said that being an entrepreneur, it's not always easy. You might have a down day, but the person next to you might, you know, be having the same kind of down day, and then you realise, oh, actually, it's normal. So just having that kind of same, you know, that environment where you can kind of share ideas, share feelings and emotions, and it's quite a unique place to be in.
Yeah. And is that the same for you, Geeta? That's the kind of support that you took away from the... Yeah.
I think, yeah, that was really well covered by both Daniela and Cleo. I think the only thing to add really is that, you know, you put to pitch as well, and it's often the one thing that you don't really want to do. Nobody really likes pitching, but obviously when you're going to be looking at trying to get a business, you have to pitch. So it's a great platform to be able to kind of get your perfected pitch, if you like, and have feedback on it in a pretty safe environment. And also the mentoring that you get, particularly on the NatWest Accelerator, is quite helpful, because you'll sit down and have one-to-ones with somebody who might have put some eyes on your business that you might not have even, you know, thought of the idea that you talk about in that session. And I think things like that are exceptionally valuable. I would also say to anybody that's, you know, listening, that's intending to have a food business, is, you know, try and find a mentor if you can as early as possible. We particularly struggled with finding a food mentor, if I'm completely honest, because they all tend to be very, very busy. But if it is something that you are able to do, certainly having somebody to hold your hand, to be able to guide you in the space that you're working in, because it's going to be a bit like the blind leading the blind at the beginning. It's definitely helpful to get you to kind of get to where you need to be a bit quicker. So if you're looking at finding ways to kind of accelerate your growth, I definitely think that's one to be, you know, aware of.
Definitely, yeah. And you mentioned pitching there, actually, Geeta. That's quite interesting, because I know, Daniela, you shared your pitch deck with me, which was fascinating. What kind of top tips would you give to the people on the call this evening about pitching?
Can I go first? I'm going to have to leave in a moment. Sorry, I've
sure.
got something starting in literally a moment. So if I could quickly share, I think that it's really important to have a great hook. So once you've got your first few seconds nailed, and don't forget to have your ask at the end. Those two things are really key: the beginning and the end. The middle almost.
What was your hook then, Geeta?
So our hook was, can you, if I was to ask you what the highest chronic, I can't even remember exact term. It's been such a long time, so now I'm on the spot. What do you think is the condition that's chronic, that's growing the fastest across Europe? And then everybody jumps to kind of diabetes, and in their head thinking of that, and would that surprise you to say that it's actually allergy? Biggest condition that's affecting Europe today is allergy, and so, you know, it's finding that nugget that will entertain your audience, something that they don't know, something that can really kind of, you know, build platform for your pitch.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. And you've got to leave us now, haven't you?
I've got to. Sorry, guys, but
all the best.
Yeah, you're welcome to contact me via LinkedIn. Sorry, I can't hear you, Sandra. Yeah, I was going to say, you're welcome to contact me via LinkedIn, anybody, if you have any questions that I'm not able to cover today. But yeah, I'm sure Daniela and Cleo have got it covered there. Yeah, from what I heard, we're all in the same boat.
Yeah. Thanks, Geeta, and enjoy the celebration.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Sandra. Take care of yourself. Bye, guys.
Bye. It's one of me, Sandra. Daniela, what about you? What about a top tip for pitching?
Pitching. Practice. practice. That's the first. And the second is just really be confident about what your business is. I mean, nobody else knows more about your business than yourself. So it's not a matter of just getting nervous. Of course, we're going to get nervous. I still do every time. I do pitching. But it's also a matter of just understanding that nobody else knows more about it than yourself. And they will never know if you're making a mistake or if you said something wrong. It doesn't matter. I mean, just be confident, say it strong, and just, yeah, like Geeta said, just look, ask, and finish strong. That's it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And Cleo, how about you? Because obviously each time you're almost like separate pitching, aren't you, for each sort of client that you're working with?
Yeah, so for me, I'd probably say breathe, which sounds really stupid, but like breathe. I think people forget to breathe pitching.
That is true.
Whether it be if you're doing like an elevator pitch, you've got a 1 minute elevator, you've got a pitch for a panel or pitch for investors, or just speak to somebody in a networking environment. effectively it's all pitching, and I think people can get caught up in trying to tell people what they offer and forget that the person needs to be able to understand what you're saying. And if you're rattling through everything, you're just not taking a breath, then you've effectively done the complete opposite, because they don't understand what you do because you were so stressed about saying it, and they come away leaving as confused as before they spoke to you. So my big thing would be to breathe. Like anytime I have to pitch, I'll probably just stand there for a second or two and just go, which sounds stupid, but because once you've done it and you've exhaled, you kind of like breathe out the nerves a little, and then you kind of get into your rhythm, and that's kind of my big thing really. I just take a deep breath and exhale, and then I can kind of start, because then I've kind of just let the nerves go a little bit there.
Yeah, great advice. So can you talk a little bit about perhaps what your plans for the future are? Cleo, maybe if you want to, obviously you're getting the unit so that you can sort of scale up the size of the jobs and things that you can do.
Yeah, so we're looking at obviously scaling up in terms of space, which will allow us more capacity. But I'm also in the process of launching another business, which is completely non-food related. It's about encouraging young people into business. So working on that too. So just working on the two simultaneously at the moment. In terms of the food space, I think now is going to be to scale up, which is going to be difficult in the middle of a pandemic. But I've had more hours than I do now than I did before. So it's just a good time really for me to plan on how we're going to make things work for the end of next year. So in my head, I've kind of decided that things are going to be somewhat the same, maybe until about summertime, June next year in terms of COVID. So we're kind of planning for how do we get to that, how do we stay alive up to that point, and then how do we kind of excel past that point. So we want to have things in place, such as kind of how are we going to scale up, how are we going to kind of find the capacity, because people are going to be out of work. So it's just working out the logistics and the variables that come along with starting a food business, but also trying to scale it. There's kind of pinch points at every point you get to. So when we get a larger space, we have more overheads. How do we do that without drastically increasing the price? Stuff like that. So that's kind of where we're at now.
Yeah, and as you scale, then you need to employ some more people, and you might run out of family members.
Yeah. My dad has 8 siblings, but I don't think any of them would be interested in working. I thought of all the family relatives, and I'm like, yeah, we have to take on somebody. But with the kind of employability side of stuff, because Seymour, another chef of ours, my uncle, he used to work training chefs. So thankfully, we have access to a plethora of young chefs looking to kind of get into the food space anyway. So I'm quite lucky in that regard.
Yeah, and it's quite nice to be able to give some young people some options.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how about you, Daniela? What are the kind of plans for the immediate future?
For the future, basically, well, in terms of business here in the UK, what we're expecting is to be able to launch the product into market and be able to sell, like I told you, through e-commerce. That's basically our main efforts. And we want to continue doing some new product development to actually fulfill this. Well, we already have some formulations ready, like I told you, bread, pasta, etc. But we want to do, for instance, insect ice cream, some crazy other things that we're planning in scope. So we want to keep doing the new product development with the support of universities and also some students if we can. And that's basically. And for next year, we just want to be able to establish very well the business here in the UK. And continue doing this research. Like I told you, we have some projects in scope with some businesses. For instance, there's some projects that we're going to do with Nestle as well. So that's something that we want to really continue working on.
Yeah, is that something you can tell us a bit more about with the?
Not yet.
No,
I don't want to jinx it. No, it's just something that is happening with. Basically just new product development with the raw materials of the company, and well, this insect flour, and then just to create products that can be actually put into market on a large scale. So that's basically where we're at.
Yeah, no, that's great. We'll get you back this time next year, and you might be able to tell us a bit
Yes,
more.
so hopefully you'll see it all over all over our social media and everything. So.
Definitely. And so the reason for coming, what were the main sort of reasons for coming to the UK? Was it to get access to like the European market, or was it just the expertise?
Basically, we had this opportunity for actually a year ago. We met with an advisor, a consultant firm for the UK government. That basically because of Brexit and everything, they were looking for some other innovative businesses, and so we found they found us actually, and so we have been working for the past year with the UK government and some other institutions, and now with Birmingham Enterprise Community as well, and basically we saw an opportunity in terms of this is people is a little bit more open-minded in this side of the world, and so basically that's our ticket to getting these products into market and actually appealing to the final consumer and creating this need that most people don't understand when we just say insect flour, how to use it, what is it good for, how do you incorporate it in foods. And so we basically took this opportunity, and that's why we're here.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. And sorry, I lost my train of thought there. So, what about for you, for both of you actually? What would you say has kind of been your biggest successes as you've been starting up the two businesses?
For me, I would probably say a couple. So for me, I'd probably say just still being here for one. I mean, being a startup business, it's difficult to survive after the first 12 months, and then to continue to then grow your business is achievement in itself. And I think that's for anybody across the board. And two, I'd probably say again, kind of gaining bigger clients that we kind of didn't anticipate on within the first 12 months of kind of launching the catering side of things, because they came out of nowhere. In all honesty, I can't say I have a formula to kind of getting these kind of clients. To be fair, they just kind of came. But even with that, it's having that level of expectation and making sure you deliver. So for us, we've never delivered, for example, we never delivered food to a client late, which we pride ourselves on, because I'm sure anybody that's ordered catering before had issues with delivery times or anything like that. And so we pride ourselves on punctuality, pride ourselves on the type of customers we work with, and pride ourselves on our customer service. So I've always wanted to adapt like an Amazon approach, where kind of the customer is right effectively, and it seems to have worked quite well for how our business has kind of progressed. Yeah,
because obviously you can get these fantastic clients that you've had, but if you don't give them a good service, then they're not going to come back or recommend you to other people, are they? So yeah. And how about you, Daniela? What would you say has been the biggest success, or what you've been most proud of so far?
Well, my first success and the thing that I'm most proud of, honestly, is being able to farm insects without any biology and entomology training. So that's the main success that I've had so far. And the second one that I'm really proud of is that I was able to actually manage and develop this fair trade supply chain back in Costa Rica. It was basically a program that I developed with the support of some other organizations back home, and it allowed us actually to really start producing and actually changing the mindsets of farmers that are basically the base of production, and so it was really good to be able to set this program and actually make it happen. So that's something that I'm really proud of, and I think that being able as a business, as a co-founder and COO, to actually continue with the business in the middle of this pandemic is something that we should be all proud of, as well with Cleo and Geeta, because it is so hard, and it has been really hard this time of I don't know, life, having this pandemic. But yeah, those are my two main just successes, I think.
Yeah, Yeah, you're right. I mean, as Cleo said, it's a big enough achievement to keep a startup going beyond 12 months, and then to be hit by this unprecedented situation. Yeah. So I guess it's just amazing that you're keeping going, pivoting, and planning for the future, even. Cleo, am I right in thinking that you're hoping to do something with the Commonwealth Games?
Yeah. So hopefully, touch wood, the procurement stuff starts around about now, actually. So I've met with the CEO a few times now, and we've spoken about kind of potentially working with the games in order to deliver elements of their catering for them, be it on the corporate side. So touch wood, we can kind of get something together and up and running for 2022. Which is why it's ironic that we need this unit, because we're going to be, if we need to feed a few thousand people, our parents' kitchen is not going to cut it. So
you're definitely going to need the unit, yeah. And I guess your mixture of the healthy aspect of it, plus the kind of Caribbean influences, is right up the street, isn't it, for the Commonwealth Games?
Yeah, so that's kind of one of the plus points that we've found, really, that the health element of it kind of appeals to the wider range of people anyway. But having a different mix of foods from different places, it means that people, if you're coming from the Caribbean, you'll be familiar with like a Johnny cake or a fried dumpling or plantain, and similarly, if you're British, you'll understand the British food side of things too. So effectively, they kind of have that in one, which means that it's far more of a coherent, inclusive, and diverse offering that we're providing.
Yeah. Daniela, that opportunity may be something for you to explore, mightn't it, if you're still in Birmingham in 2022?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Sustainable protein.
Yeah, definitely, I agree.
Okay, I have on my list of questions what your kind of biggest challenges have been, but I think we've probably really covered that off, haven't we? But if there's anything other than COVID that you would say that you've challenges you've had to face and you've overcome along the way.
I'll probably just say finance, which kind of is, I guess, for everybody the obvious. Fund something as long as you can, and then at some point you need more. And generally, as a startup, your burn rate, i.e., the amount of money you spend before you make anything back, tends to be a lot higher than if you're established, just because you're trying to get established. So I think the sources of finance, and then how to manage that finance, how to manage your cash flow, how to forecast going forward. I'd say that's something that we struggle with, and I think in any business you'll always struggle with it, because with times how they change, it's just kind of how do you manage it. That's something that I've had to work a lot of time on to kind of try and improve, because I hate numbers at the best of times. So for me, it was a case of sitting down and trying to work out, right, what am I looking at, and then going from there, really.
Yeah, and have you had much support with that? Sorry, Daniela, have you had much support with that, Cleo, or something you just had to get to grips with?
It was one of those things where I kind of thought, I don't like to do numbers, so I kind of have to learn it, because it's one of those necessary evils, unfortunately. You have to understand what you're looking at, how much you're spending, to be able to make any money, because it's quite easy to bury your head in the sand and think, we've got a great idea and I think I'm charging enough for it. But in the kind of grand scheme of things, you might have a great idea, you might think you're charging enough for it, you're probably only making 10% profit on it, which isn't sustainable. So it was really understanding, right, this is what we want to do, this is the price point we need to be at. When I first launched my Dine in its kind of meal prep state, I wanted our meals to be charged at about £4. I soon realised that was not feasible, because the food that we cook in terms of, just the expenditure was far higher than, McDonald's Big Mac meal, for example. So as a result, we had to increase the price to suit. And with that, you'll find that, you lose customers, and other customers will understand. And it's just how do you add value. So if you have to, for example, increase the price, you have to kind of explain your reasoning and logic. And that's kind of what we did.
Yeah, you have to sort of position your brand compared to competitors. Yeah. And Daniela, so you were nodding and.
No, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, from my side, I don't like numbers as well. So it's something that I had to deal with, and that now I'm doing. It's a part of your work and something that you have to do. But basically, the main challenge as well, coming from a Latin American country where bureaucracy and corruption is really hard, actually that was the main challenge that we had to overcome in terms of regulatory issues and all of the things that had to happen. So now coming here, actually, it is quite easy for me to actually say that, okay, I do everything online and that's it. It's all good. But yeah, that's basically the main challenge that we had to face in the past 2 years. Of course, financing and not understanding your runway, how everything, your cash flow, what other investments you need to do in the future to grow, etc. All of those things are really a challenge, but it's necessary.
Sure, thank you. And I think we have a couple of questions. Is it Kemfuni wants to ask a question?
Hello.
Hi there.
All right. So I just want to ask, like, for someone who wants to start a food business in Birmingham, what advice would you give?
Just generally?
Yeah, generally, like for someone who is new in the environment and wants to start a food business, what advice would you just give, like a general advice?
Okay. Cleo?
For me, I'll probably just say make sure there's a need for what you're offering. I think generally speaking, you can create a business and no one wants it nor needs it. So having, have your idea, which is absolutely fine, but just do a bit of beta testing. Just go and ask, and not your friends and family, because they'll tell you it's a great idea. Go out, and I at one point remember doing surveys on the street and just asking people, what do you think of this, X, Y, and Z, people you don't know, because they'll come up with critiques and plus points that you'll go, oh, I didn't think about that. And I'd say before you go and spend time on a food business, because like Geeta said earlier, it's not cheap to do or to start. Really have a clear understanding about what your service offering is and if people actually want it or need it.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Thank you. Daniela?
I totally agree, and I would also say that you would have to be ready, not only in a food business, but in any kind of business, to be committed 150% of your dedication and in your sleep and your everything to give it all, because otherwise it will not work. So it's just a matter of commitment to your idea and this validation that Cleo is talking about. That's really important as well.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm not sure whether Rohan's still on the call, but he had been asking about, I suppose, the impact that things like Uber Eats and Just Eat and those kind of platforms, what they've been having on. I don't know, Cleo, would it affect your business at all?
It's a weird one because we were strictly online, but we managed all our e-commerce internally. So I kind of was adamant against using things like Uber Eats because one, the general connotation behind it is it's fast food and tended to be junk food, which wasn't what we were offering. So it's in a complete different market for us. Like the meal prep sector now has kind of established its own kind of industry. So we weren't in direct competition. However, they were obviously, when you think about food delivery online, you think of the Just Eats, the Ubers, the Deliveroos. We were kind of in a different space where we don't deliver hot food. We deliver pre-cooked meals that can be frozen and reheated. So the process is actually completely different, although the two you can order from your phone. So it didn't have a direct impact because they weren't a direct competitor, but obviously they would impact upon, if you typed in now, Caribbean meal delivery, you might see Uber Eats above my Dine, for example. So, and cost-wise, I think in terms of cost, they do take a chunk. It's kind of like the supermarkets. They're like the digital version of a supermarket now, so they can charge whatever fee they want to, knowing that they have the audience. We didn't want that. We kind of wanted autonomy about how much we charge, how much profit we can make, and how do we manage the cost. And that's kind of why we went down the kind of build your own e-commerce site.
Yeah, and that's the same for you, Daniela, is it? Is that the e-commerce is how you're selling your snacks?
Yes, basically we're really focused on e-commerce. Actually, Uber Eats or any of these platforms are not yet part of our marketing strategy or sales strategy because of the reasons that Cleo just mentioned. I honestly don't know. I'm seeing like a few questions in the chat. I honestly don't know if you can actually start a business completely dependent on Uber Eats and all of these platforms. But I think that it's possible. It's just a matter of understanding your numbers and your margins and how much it will cost to actually deliver through any of these platforms.
Yeah, it's the same. I think we had somebody the other day who has set up a male grooming product and was quite shocked when he sort of worked out at the end of the day how much of his profit was going to Amazon.
Yeah.
You know, but maybe it's a sort of necessary evil when you're starting out, and then once you get enough brand recognition, you can move away.
It's a matter of volume. It's a matter of volume. Yeah.
I think a lot of people that sell through Amazon that I know, what they've done is they've created their Amazon account because they know they get the traffic, and they've just effectively branded it to the T, and hope to funnel people from Amazon to their actual website, and effectively then when they're comfortable purchasing, they just go directly to the actual company website to cut out those Amazon fees, but they take the hit initially to generate the traffic and the revenue.
Yeah, that's right. One thing we haven't spoken about actually, and Cleo, I think you've spoken about it in the past, is the importance of your suppliers in a food business. Yeah,
so the supply chain is probably the most important thing after the cooking and the people, because if you don't have the food, you can't do what you do. And like for me, I'm quite big on sourcing everything locally, which is sometimes a killer. The easy option would be which a lot of people do is they buy in bulk, they keep it in a fridge, and then they use it. I don't like that. So all of our fridges are empty. So what I do is I source it 3 o'clock in the morning from the wholesalers in Witten, and then every time we cook, source in the morning. I mean, for me, like the fresher the better. It's cliche, but I just prefer it. You know where it's come from, then you can trace it. You know how long you've got to work with it, and I think it just mitigates your risk then, and it reduces any kind of real risk. With food businesses, Geeta mentioned about allergies, stuff like that, and just food safety is critical for any kind of food business. And if you can reduce your risk by doing a bit extra, i.e. kind of, sourcing it fresh, sourcing it locally, it makes life a lot easier. But suppliers are integral, because if you don't have reliable suppliers that are reputable, then it could really impact upon your brand, your business, because people will taste that and go, what happened? I'm a chef, not a magician, so you got
to have the raw ingredients, good raw ingredients.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. And anything additional to comment on that, Daniela?
Basically, we think about it the same way. Suppliers are also a great step of the food chain and everything. And basically, what we do is that we actually do like some sort of study previously when we're managing these suppliers, and basically just make sure that they're aligned with everything that we do, and that they're also a fair trade company, or that they're locally sourced, or and they're also safe in terms of their quality of their ingredients, etc. So it's also something that we should do.
Yeah. Cleo, there's a Amandeep has put in the chat, how do you guys manage allergies or any custom orders from customers? I guess you've had to do that a lot on the catering side of things.
Yeah, so on both ends really. So for me, with the menus that we've got, I actually sat down for about 6 months and worked out every single kind of nutritional element of each food item and how it works collectively as a meal, which is why, again, we took the healthy element, i.e. kind of we cut out any oil, we don't add any oil to our food. And so that's kind of how I kind of worked around that. It was painstakingly tiresome, and it was also very frustrating, because when you're ready to launch a business, you want to get it launched. But for me, I was like, it's better to just have all the information ready. So it meant me sitting down and working through the entire menu and understanding kind of what allergens are included in X, Y, and Z meal, what are the calories for X, Y, and Z meal, what are the macros, which for the fitness buffs was very crucial for them. And then in terms of kind of for custom catering, I spend a lot of time just going through and speaking to the customer quite a bit. So custom orders aren't really a problem for me. The event we did for Google last year, they had, I think it was 57 different types of people with different allergen requirements. Yeah. So So I spent about a week just working on that and making sure we had a menu that would suit a range of different dietary, well, all of them, and ensuring that throughout the day it was as easy for the chefs as possible, because the issue that we have, not issue, but the challenge that we face is you have to meet everyone's dietary requirements. You also have to make it as smooth sailing for the chefs as possible. And as we kind of do bigger jobs, I realise I do less work, which is great for me. But I need to be able to relay that information to the people that are cooking it and serving it. So it meant, in terms of managing dietary requirements and allergens, I have a massive chart, which I might be able to see in the background somewhere, depending on where I am. I've got a massive chart that I can literally write on in terms of allergens and how we can match each item to each person's requirement. Some people had allergies to strawberries, which meant no strawberries went on the fruit platter. So you've got your dairy intolerance, you've got your nut allergies, that kind of thing. So it's just being meticulous about it, really, and being very granular.
It's so important, isn't it? My daughter has a nut allergy, so I know how important it is. Yeah. How about you, Daniela? Because obviously with your snacks, you have to make sure it's got all the required information.
Yes, basically what we do, well, in regards to edible insects, one of the main concerns for food safety is if they're going to develop any allergies in people with shellfish allergies as well. So what we do is basically just make sure that everything is very well labeled, and you are very well aware that these products have all the allergens that are regulated here in the UK. And so that's what we basically do. There isn't any evidence actually that it is actually an allergen, but still taking all of the measures.
Yeah, I suppose it's an unknown, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit unknown.
Yeah, but you work with your manufacturers in Warsaw to make sure, because there's things like about sort of cross-contamination and things.
Yes.
You have to be careful about.
Yes, exactly. What we do is basically just inform it very well in the packaging, because of course we can have any cross-contamination with, I don't know, nuts, soy as well. So that's what we're managing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we're probably about to wrap it up. Is there anything that you two think that we haven't covered that you think is really important in starting up a food business, or anything that we've kind of missed?
Not that I can think of. I don't know about you, Daniela, but I can't think.
Yeah, I don't think I am. Yeah, I'm not thinking about anything in particular. Just basically, just to tell you a little bit about my experience, I never thought I would be doing a food business in my career, even though I studied nutrition and everything. But now here I am, and basically, what I would say is just a matter of, like I said, committing to your idea, to your vision, and what you want to do in the world to actually make it happen. Because otherwise, you will just well, there are several points where everything gets really difficult. So otherwise, you'll just quit.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice. Thank you. And Cleo, so obviously, I mean, when I met you, you were starting a marketing business. So
Yeah.
your family got to you in the end. Your dad got to you in the end.
Yeah, I don't know how. Because at the age of 14, I'm never working with food again. I started working with food when I was 14, and by the time I got to 17, just before I went to university, I was like, I'm not working with food ever again. So I don't know what. I don't know what happened in the interim.
Yeah, but you enjoy it. Obviously, there's been some hard times recently, but
Yeah, I think with any business, especially with food, I think you have to. I think food's kind of a passion business, because it's not easy and it's very labour intensive. There'll be times where, like for example, we have catering jobs on, for example, and the next day I can't move, so I'm literally comatose in my bed. And then even now, like you do it because you enjoy it, and that satisfaction afterwards, that's kind of the main reason why. So I'd say if anyone's going to start a food business, do it because you enjoy it and you're passionate about it, not because you think it'll make you a lot of money. Because as soon as you start, starting businesses to make a lot of money, is where you'll run into problems, because when it's not making money, your motivation will be completely gone. So make sure it's a passion as opposed to a reason, and then the money will be a byproduct.
Yeah, brilliant. I think you're both kind of on the same page there with that, aren't you? I'm going to draw it to a close unless anybody has any last questions, a few questions that they'd like to ask Cleo or Daniela. But it's been fascinating conversation. I've learned a lot, and I'm really going to be. Oh, we do have a question. Do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, sorry, I'm back again. I know for starting a business, it's always good to surround yourself with the right mentors, people that have been in it. And I don't know if you guys would be able to mentor us. Like, I would really appreciate if we could hook up with you guys on whatever media just to have someone we could talk to, someone that could guide us. I would really appreciate that.
I think Daniela's put her LinkedIn on the chat, and I'm sure Cleo, yeah, Cleo's happy as well. Are you a student here at Aston Symphony?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. Well, hopefully we've got a few more of these sessions, and we've got the Apollo program. I don't know if you've seen that, but maybe if you drop me an email at the end of this session, we can work out how we can support you in starting your business up. Thank you for your questions and engagement today, and thank you to everybody for being on the session. We do have another how-to next Tuesday, and that is about how to take your side hustle and make it into a bona fide business. And we've got three really great speakers. One actually is in the kind of food industry. One is in the sort of social media side of things. Actually, sorry, there's two who's the food industry. The other one is Evolve. Do you know Evolve, Daniela? Do you know Dom from Evolve?
Yeah, I do know them.
Yeah, and Evolve is a food product. It's kind of fruit-based snacks that is being sold in supermarkets and Google's campus, I think. So if you enjoyed tonight, come along next Tuesday, same time, and join us in another conversation. And yeah, just want to really thank both Daniela and Cleo, and obviously Geeta, who's left us, for giving up your time and sharing, being so honest and just sharing all your experiences with our audience. Thank you both very much.
No problem. Happy to help.
You're welcome. It's always great to share the experience and the learnings that we've had in this journey.
Thank you. And follow us on Instagram, Howard's saying, and obviously, follow these guys as well, and because it'd be lovely to sort of keep following your journeys and finding out how you're getting on. So great, thank you, and have a lovely evening, everybody.
Likewise, have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.